Hello and welcome to episode 24, I think it is, of Hunter x Hunter. Last time, Gon, Kurapika and Leorio have made it through the testing gate, and they've made it through the testing butler, but things ended a little bit strangely when the butler got fucking sniped from across the room by Killua's mum. We don't know if the butler is dead or yet not. It seemed like she was killed. I mean, she did get shot in the head, but it is possible. I mean, we didn't see any blood, right? We didn't see any blood. So it's entirely possible that it was just like a stun blast or something that would knock her out, but it wouldn't kill her, right? That's entirely possible. But we'll just have to see. Yeah, I've already talked a bunch about the last episode, so I'm not going to spend too long. But yeah. I don't know what they're going to do now that the mum's here. Maybe they can talk to the mum and convince her to let them see Killua. I don't know how unreasonable the mother is going to be, because she seems kind of unreasonable to an extent. I mean, she is torturing her own son, for example. But that is her messed up, warped perception of the right thing to do. Which means that, as fucked up as that may be, she thinks she's doing the right thing. Which does raise the question of how willing is she to let Gon see Killua. It's clear she doesn't want him to see Killua, but at the same time, if she believes what she is doing is the right thing to do, then that means she is also potentially within the realm of being able to be convinced, right? If she has morals, and she is working towards those morals, even if their morals are fucked up, that means she still has morals that can potentially be appealed to. So, yeah, let's just see how things go. I do not know what to expect, but I'm hoping that they can get to Killua, because the boy really needs some... Gon and Killua both just need a hug right now. So, Killua especially, he's... Oh boy, I mentioned last episode that Gon has been through so much recently and he needs a hug, but Killua really needs a hug right now. He just needs a big, happy group hug and a kiss on the cheek from his friends and like a, hey Gon, not punching him, but like a, you can do it. Well, you know, something that would actually work, not that. That wouldn't work at all. Also, a kiss on the cheek from friends. I don't know if Killua would be into that. I don't know if anyone would be into that, to be honest. Now that I think about it, that actually sounds kind of weird. So, yeah, actually, no, we'll just forget everything I just said. He needs some support, and I'll leave it at that. So, yeah, let's get into the episode. Okay, so that was a very interesting episode. So, let's get the first bit out of the way, because I feel like the family is going to be the bit I probably talk about the most. So, yeah, let's get the butler stuff out of the way. So yeah, how the hell, where was she? Like, where did she learn this stuff? Like, she's so good that she can take on a hunter no problem, right? We spent the entire last arc just going over just how ridiculously tough you have to be to become a hunter. And she dispatched with a hunter. Granted, she did have a little bit of difficulty. She got stabbed in the arm. You know, it wasn't like a super duper ridiculously one-sided fight, but she did it fairly casually, right? And she's so young as well. Like, on the one hand, it's possible she was trained by the family, but it seems more likely that she was already trained somewhere and then got hired by the family, right? Which is another thing. She's a child, right? She's a child. So that means that child labor, I guess, is okay in this world, because they were able to hire her not just as a butler, but as a butler who will have to fight against intruders. I suppose maybe in a world in which, I guess this is a world that works slightly different from ours and that children can be really capable. I mean, look at Killua, for example. If this was the real world, a child simply would not be strong enough to take out an adult, right? That's simply, it's not going to happen. It doesn't matter how trained you are. It doesn't matter if you've spent since the day you were born training martial arts. If you're a 10-year-old, you're not beating a 25-year-old, right? It's just not happening. It's just not happening. But I guess in this world it works differently, where because of the way the magic and powers work, children and underage people can be a lot more capable and a lot more able. So I suppose maybe in this world the rules in regards to child labour work differently because of that. Or it could just be a really fucked up world in which child labour is totally okay. That's also a total possibility. But yeah. So she came from Meteor City, which is a place that no longer exists. I'm going to assume maybe because it got hit by a meteor or something, just a guess. But she said that that's a place where people like the Phantom Troop tend to hang out. Which, that is foreshadowing if I've ever seen it. So, and Killua said that he'd like to visit that someday. So the Phantom Troop, it's been a while since we've heard about them. We heard about them first in episode 1, and then again in episode 4, and again in episode 10, I think. 10 or 9 or 10. But it's been a while since we last heard about them. But yeah, they are definitely making sure that we remember the Phantom Troop. They're not letting us forget about them. They're bringing them up every now and then, keeping them fresh in our memory. When are we going to meet them? When are we going to meet them? That's like... I'm very curious to see that whole storyline when it happens. But yeah, the whole situation with Killua's family did not turn out the way I was expecting. So first of all, it seems the situation may be different to what we thought it was last episode. Last episode, it seems as though Killua returned and then his family locked him up to torture him, right? But the way it's presented this episode, it seems more like Killua voluntarily did it himself. I guess because he felt bad about stabbing his mum and brother and wanted his brother to be able to whack him for a little bit to, I guess atone for that. So he voluntarily entered the torture chamber for that reason. Which, again, doesn't change the fact that his family are torturing him, right? You can't forget that, right? The fact that they are willing to do that, even if it was his own request, still says a lot about the family. But it does change the dynamic slightly that he was the one who wanted it to happen. If that whole thing is actually true. It does change the dynamic slightly. It doesn't make it good, doesn't make it acceptable, but it does a little bit alter the way you have to look at the situation. It seems as though the mother is the one who is very overprotective. Which makes sense because she's the one that Killua stabbed in the face when he ran away. The dad seems... He still does want Killua to be an assassin, but it seems as though his methods are less direct. Because he had that whole conversation with him where... Let's go through each family member. So we have the fat brother, Mil. It was like Miluko or something. I can't remember exactly what his name is. Milkio something. Mil. He is chubby boy. He was talking about a device, a bomb he could put on mosquitoes, which sounds like a really cool idea, but I don't know if it would work because, like you said, you'd have to actually train the mosquitoes to be able to identify people, which sounds very difficult. So yeah, he seems like more of the technological kind. He makes devices, bombs, that kind of thing, and that's how he kills people. I suppose that makes sense, right? That's not why he's maybe not as physically fit as the others. It seems as though even using a whip, he wasn't able to actually really cause too much damage to Killua. I mean, it did hurt Killua. It's not as though he didn't even feel it. He clearly did feel it. But it wasn't like unbearable torture, right? It was to the point where he was able to be pretty casual about it afterwards. So, yeah, he doesn't seem to be on that level in terms of power. I'm going to now assume that Killua is in fact the strongest of the siblings, with the exception of Illumi. It was stated, though, that Killua is the most talented in the Zoldyck family history. That doesn't mean he's the strongest now. Obviously not. That doesn't mean he's the strongest. He's probably still a lot weaker than many other family members, but he has the most potential, which is fitting, right? It's fitting. And his mother seems to be the one who's really trying to keep him chained up, metaphorically. Doesn't want him to have any friends, doesn't want anything. She wants him completely under her control so she can mold him exactly how she wants him to be. And Illumi follows the mother in that regard. The father, on the other hand, seems to be a little bit more free-form with his manipulation. So he was willing to sit Killua down, talk with him, get them on each other's sides, right? Get them on each other's sides and have it a heart-to-heart talk, and then allowed Killua to go off and be free, right? For now is the key point. Be free for now. Because he expects Killua to return. Which is interesting because he made that little blood deal where he bit his hand, did a little thumb blood kiss thing, and said, "You must never betray your friends." And I wonder if that's some, like, planting seeds for psychological manipulation down the line. Similar to where Illumi kind of mentally broke Killua by telling him, "Oh, Gon isn't really your friend," and all that stuff. It could be a similar situation now where he's planting those seeds because he truly believes that Killua will return to them, which I suppose could constitute a betrayal of his friends if he betrays them to return to become an assassin. So if the father, which I think was Sylvia, I think his name was, if he truly believes that Killua will return, then by making him have that vow, it means that in order to return, he might need to betray his friends, which is going to affect him psychologically and maybe make it easier for him to be molded into that assassin that he wants him to be. So the father isn't necessarily a nice guy. He's not necessarily a nice guy at all. He's just far more manipulative in a behind-the-scenes kind of way. Rather than directly telling Killua, "You're going to be an assassin, I'm going to control you, blah, 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 blah." He's a lot more manipulative with it seems. One thing I'm not sure about, in terms of whether I like it or not, is the fact that they kind of just dropped Killua's, like, mental break. Because a couple episodes ago, in episode 20 I think it was, Killua was really mentally shook up by what happened with Illumi. And when he killed the martial arts master, he looked... Oof, that was a scary scene, with the eyes just completely vacant. It was like something out of a horror movie, right? It was really messed up. And he seemed just mentally... boom, like mentally gone. But he seems back to normal now. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, because on the one hand, it is nice to see that Killua is okay. And I mean okay in relative terms. He's obviously not okay. He's not completely normal. But he is okay in comparison to where he was at in episode 20 when he left, right? He is okay in comparison to that. Not in comparison to a normal person. But he is not the level of mentally broken I was expecting him to be. Which does kind of seem like a bit of a waste of that whole thing where Killua just seemed completely out of it and gone. I'm not sure how I feel about the fact that he seems to be back to normal now. I'm hoping that they do bring it up. I'm hoping that that doesn't just get abandoned and they do bring up the fact of, hey, Killua was in a really bad spot. He got, like, manipulated psychologically into thinking Gon wasn't his friend. I hope that they bring that up again and don't just use it for that one episode and then drop it. Because I want that to be a thing where Killua is still affected by it and he does still have to overcome that, and I'm sure we will. I'm sure that they are going to explore that, right? I'm sure they will. Because I know this show has a good reputation, so I'm sure they're not going to drop the ball that hard, right? I'm sure that they're going to actually pursue that and really indulge into it and really analyse his character and really make him develop and go through all that stuff. It just wasn't in the way I was expecting it to. What I was expecting was he would be mentally broken and he would continue to be mentally broken and Gon would have to come and save him and slowly build him back up. But it seems like more of a situation where he was mentally broken for a moment, recovered, but those scars are still within there, right? He still will have those doubts and those feelings deep in his mind. So it's going to be a situation where he still has to overcome it, but it's going to be more of a subconscious thing rather than an obvious conscious thing. He's not going to be like, he's not going to be like mentally broken, having to put the pieces back together in an obvious sense. It's going to be more of a under the surface kind of way, which could potentially be better. That could be better. Because, in fact, it could be a lot better. Because if you have him be completely mentally broken, that's something that kind of needs to be fixed quickly. Otherwise, you're essentially writing Killua out of the story as a character for a while. Because if he's just this, like, mentally broken person for 50 episodes, then that's 50 episodes in which Killua is basically non-existent as a character until he recovers, right? Not to say he's non-existent as a character, but you know what I mean? He doesn't get to develop in any way outside of that one very linear progression in which he goes from being broken to not broken. But if you have him be okay on the surface, but messed up underneath, then that allows Killua to still be present as a character and develop in many multiple different ways while still dealing with those psychological issues that he has. So now that I think about it, I'm okay with this, you know? I'm okay. Earlier I was saying I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact they kind of got rid of that whole thing. But now that I think about it, if they are going to handle it in the way I think they're going to handle it, which is he seems okay on the surface, but he still has all these issues that are really nagging at him underneath subconsciously that are going to have to be dealt with over time, then I like that. I do like that because it means that it can be dealt with over a long period of time, maybe his entire character arc from beginning to end, without it completely shutting down his character and forcing him down a single route and only a single route. But yeah, that was an interesting episode. I wonder how much of this family we're going to see now from this point onwards, because it seems Killua is going to be allowed to meet up with Gon and them, and I can only imagine that. Here's another thing, right? One idea that I briefly had in my mind is that maybe Killua's family were related to the Phantom Troop in some way. That was one idea I briefly had in my mind, but the fact that the butler woman, Canary, she said that the Phantom Troop sometimes hangs out in Meteor City. She referred to them as an outside entity, which means that Killua's family aren't directly connected to them, right? They might have loose connections potentially, but they are not directly members of the Phantom Troop, and we can tell that because if they were, Canary wouldn't have referred to the Phantom Troop in that way of, oh yeah, this group somehow hangs out. Like, no, if Killua's family were part of the Phantom Troop, she would have spoken about the Phantom Troop differently, right? That makes sense. So, the mother. So yeah, like we gotta look at the family, right? The fat brother is kind of jealous of Killua. He seems more like the physically less capable, but maybe a bit smarter. Comes up with these devices and stuff, and he is a bit jealous of Killua's ability. And then we have the mother, who's extremely overprotective and doesn't want Killua to have any friends or anything like that. And then you have the dad, who on the surface seems a lot nicer and seems a lot more willing to let Killua be who he wants to be. But it seems as though in reality he's just being extremely manipulative and just tricking Killua into thinking that he's free to be whoever he wants. But in reality he fully expects Killua to return eventually. Oh, but yeah, man. This is a very interesting family, and I want to know more about them. I want to see them more. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there for today because I can already feel my voice starting to get a bit sore now. And my mental energy for analysis is beginning to drain. So I need to call it there before my mind just turns into mush. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Like the video if you liked it, as always. Dislike the video if you didn't like it, that's cool too. And subscribe if you want to see more content, because I don't think I have a schedule right now. So if you want to be able to see new content when it gets uploaded, the best way to do that is to subscribe so you get that notification. And yeah, share the video if you want to help me grow, that's good too. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.